Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here. For checking out the series, of course, you know what to do. If you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I am so excited to have him on here. Keith Urban is here. He's got a brand new album called Hi, Hello.
Hey Kyle, good to get to talk to you finally.
Yeah, man. I've been, of course, following you around musically for a very long time, so it's good to finally have you on here and to talk
Thank you.
about what album number 11 with High. Like
Yeah,
that's
I guess. Yeah. There's a few. I've made a few, thank goodness. I did a solo album in Australia, so probably technically it's like 12, but
right.
I'll
Well,
take
and
I'll
then if
take
we
11.
count, I guess what we don't count this, but I think part of the story of this album is this almost could have been album number 13 at this point because I guess there was
That's true.
the scrapped album. Like that's
Yeah.
that fascinates me every time, especially when you're an artist, let's say, who's successful enough to have the machine behind you, to have the family depending on you. Like for you
Right,
to
right.
walk away and say this isn't working, like that's kind of big, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's never happened to me before, and like you said, I've made a few records. But it stands to reason that the reason it's never happened to me before is because I've never approached a record the way I did this thing that was called 615, which I started making in 2022. And I thought I'd give myself some sort of framework and structure to stay within as I created this album, because sometimes my records go off in all directions. And I thought I'll just try this approach to see what happens. Will this give me focus or will this give me limitation? And I discovered that it gave me limitation. So I scrapped that whole record, took 4 songs off it, and started again.
Yeah, limitations actually do work for some artists, and obviously for some it doesn't. Like, because what's the necessity is the mother of invention. That's the phrase,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like when you're just pared down back against the wall, and seeing what comes out of that. Like, what was it about that that didn't work for you?
A linear result where and it's a great question because I can't say that it was my framework that caused the result. Um, it was also piecemeal recording, the way in which I did it, where we'd record a song when I was off the road, and then X amount of weeks later, we'd record another song when I was off the road. So all of these songs individually felt really good. It was when I pieced them all together to form an album that I went, oh crap, this doesn't have all of this stuff,
Uh-huh.
which at the time I didn't realize. I just wasn't really listening to all these things back to back to back. So that's really what it was.
Yeah, I was recently. I know I got them over my shoulder. I was recently listening to REM's New Adventures of Hi-Fi, which late 90s had electro, and they did that. And it's a song recorded sort of on the road, off the road, back and forth through the entire tour. Some people love that album. It's my least favorite thing they've ever done. I just can't get a grasp onto it. Like,
And to your point, I mean, they may have done what they set out to do, and then you have the result you wanted. But I didn't like the
mhm.
result myself, so I couldn't continue with it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you get this record, and it's interesting that we're sort of talking about it this way because you get Break the Chain, and Break the Chain talking about, and I'm probably separating the context a little bit, but getting out of the monotony. And I know that can probably talk about for your personal life, your own life, whatever. But for a songwriter, like I feel like that's got to be a hard thing to do as well. I mean, again, album number 11 for a lot of artists. Well, I found my groove. I've done my experimenting. People know what they get from me. And to be able to break out of that chain, as a songwriter, like how hard is that for you? As you're, 30 years on as an artist at this point.
The only hard part is when I try anything versus doing it.
Uh-huh.
When I try something, it uh, albums for me are taking a photograph of who I am and where I am right now. That's my favorite kind of album for me. is just taking a snapshot. What songs do I love right now? How do I want to play them right now? What do I want to sing right now? What kind of album do I want to make right now? That's all it is. And like I said, I've never set out to have a theme. And 615 was the closest thing I'd ever done to having a theme, and it didn't work for me. So all I want to do is capture an authentic photo of who I am right now musically. And that's only just for that moment. And to go one step further, one thing I learned through the pandemic, among many things, when I couldn't tour, was I thought it would just be because I missed the live experience, playing in front of people and, blah, 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 blah. But what I realized is, for me, touring is also the rest of the record. So historically, we do an album and then we go tour that record. Touring's always given me a chance to give that record more dimension, give the songs more dimension. And because in a lot of cases, and you know this too, you've just written a song and you go and record it right away. I barely know this song. And that's a blessing and a challenge simultaneously, because I've now got to capture it in some form. That may not be the best form, but it's the one in that moment. Going out and playing it live, I get to explore it every night and find more dimension in the song. That was one of the things I really missed about touring the speed of now, and very much looking forward to hitting the road for this High album.
Yeah. I think that's might be even the reason why I turn to live albums a lot of the time, because it's that right there. I've actually never thought about it in the way you're talking about it right now, because I like to hear and feel, as I was about to say, how an artist develops that song. Sometimes, some artists, they just like to jam it out or whatever. You got a Pearl Jam or something, they'll jam out a song for a while, and that's fun. But you have other artists who sort of take that song and it's not yet realized, and by the time you get to the end of the tour and the live album, like, oh, that's what this song was born to be.
Right. Or it could be.
Sure.
The song is many things. It's the album only presents one potential of it.
Yeah.
I also recognize that for people coming to listen to a show, there's always this delicate balance of honor the song the way I'm going to hear it in my head. Don't screw around with it. Don't change the melody so much because you're bored with it already, right? Because I want to hear it and sing along with it. But also, I have an issue with doing it exactly like the album, like the single version or whatever it is. Every song, you can pick a song. I went and saw Huey Lewis back in the day, right? And because I love their record and the songs are amazing, and I thought, it's great they're coming to play live. And I went with my bass player, and it's the first time I discovered that you can be too good and too rehearsed and too polished. And
there's the album right there. Yeah.
They came out on stage, and my bass player and I were sitting there going, oh my God, this is like the record. This is like the record. And then like 5 songs, and we went, oh, this is like the record. And we had this weird reaction to it where it was so good that I couldn't feel there was no teeth.
Right.
I couldn't feel anything. And we left about halfway through, and I love that band.
Yeah.
Still love that band.
Still a great band.
It was still a great band, and great bulletproof songs. I mean, good God, their songs are great. But what I took away from it is that you can do it to a couple of songs, and then I need something that's real and right in front of me.
Yeah. There are moments in this record that right there that I can't wait to hear. Like laughing all the way to the drink is probably the best example, because you hit all the moods on this record. There's I think you talked about the way you did the track listing, where nothing starts in the same tempo, nothing starts in the same key which is great. That song right there, I mean, it's probably my favorite on the album anyway, but that's the one I'm like, ooh, I want to hear this live. I want to hear this just like blown out.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And that's you work Elazondo? You work with him on that one?
Yeah. We've written a few things over the years, and every muso knows and loves Mike. I mean, he's a phenomenal musician, songwriter, and producer. I mean, he's just so good in all directions. But that song came about because I have my drummer, Terrence F. Clark, who's in my band, great Memphis drummer. I found at a sound check he would be playing some groove and we would just start jamming. And so many bands know this moment where you have this magic happening at sound check. And it would happen all the time. I'm like, man, this guy really inspires me to come up with stuff. And so I called Mike and I said, now, Terence is not a traditional songwriter in any way, but can I bring him in the studio and you play bass, Terence plays drums, I play guitar. We'll let Terence start a groove of any sort and we'll jam with him. And we'll do that all day. And we'll see if we can collect a whole bunch of embryo tracks that we may be able to turn into songs. That's how Laughing All the Way to the Drink started, was exactly like that. And then I brought in Ben Burgess to help me flesh out the song part of it. But that is, the core of that is a three-piece band just jamming their ass off on the floor.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You can kind of tell. I mean, yeah, that spirit's in there. That's what I mean. And those moments, I mean, you get you've heard enough music in your life, it's impossible not to hear something go, is that reminds me of like when I hear Dodge and a Silverado, the beginning, I'm like, is this sort of a nod to Motley Crue's Home Sweet Home a little bit? That's
Oh, wow.
piano at the beginning. Yeah.
I mean, that's all just anthem lighter rock
Sure.
101, isn't it? I never thought about that connection. I didn't write that song, but that's definitely, it's cut from the bones of that chord progression is it's classic. I mean, it's in so many songs, I guess. Yeah.
If you ever do the thing, live where you bridge
Mash
the
it up.
cover into the mashup, right?
It's a great one. Excellent.
Got it right there for you.
Noted.
When every single one of these songs on this record could be a single, which is normal for you. You write great albums, and when you're writing a song, do you think of it like, does every song need to be a hit? Can every song be a hit?
Oh God, no.
No.
No, I'm a sucker for hooks. That's all. I always have been. I grew up listening to radio as much as I did sort of greatest hit albums at home. And people like ELO and Jeff Lynne is probably a bigger influence than I realized. But as I get older, I think back to those records. They were like my Beatles, because my parents didn't have any Beatles records, so I missed the Beatles. But I had ELO, and so that was
Jeff wanted to be the Beatles. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I learned so much about the Beatles structure through Jeff Lynne's filter, and he brought even more pop hook sensibility into those songs, and he was a big influence on my songwriting for sure.
Yeah. What was that? I was hearing you mention it maybe in a previous interview, but that you were sort of getting in a Robert Palmer mood recently. And
Yeah.
I think you and I were linking up because that's Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. I think there was like 2 months this year. And I knew that song, but it just, some things come back, and I just had that on repeats.
Yeah.
That guy is so underrated, even with his 2 or 3 huge MTV hits.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much more.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wrote a song a few records back called Drop Top. I think it was on Graffiti U. And definitely the inspiration for that song was Johnny and Mary. It's a really obscure Robert Palmer song of minimalism that always it's just this boring drum machine all the way through, but it's almost like Kraftwerk or something. It's just so simplistic, hypnotic, and I love Robert Palmer. He's very underrated.
Yeah, no, I like seeing that right there. It is interesting how we're talking too, because I saw you covering the Ariana Grande song on Instagram or whatever it was, and that's the pipeline is back. It's been there through the past, but the pop star country pipeline is happening more and more again. Do you keep an eye on that? I mean, obviously, Post Malone's got his album now, and Beyonce's got a like. How does that arrive for you?
It's all connected. At the end of the day, everybody's always looking for every artist is always looking for somewhere to glean from, and sometimes it's in the past in this genre only. Sometimes it's here all over I've just drawn from everywhere all over the place, but I always come back to a great song is a great song. In the case of the Ariana song, the first time I heard it, I was just like, good God, I didn't even know what she was saying in the song, but I get chills thinking about it. There was something happening in that song that I could tell when it was written. It's got something very, very deep and powerful when she wrote that, when she was inspired to write that melody, the lyric, whatever's going on. And I love the way she writes so ambiguously from a lyric standpoint, and it's almost like the melody paints way more of the story than the lyrics do.
Mhm.
And so you can dismantle that song any which way and it's going to hold up.
See, that's when I believe in magic in songs. There's some songs that have,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's funny because when
Yeah.
you talk to the artist, they're like, they know the grind of writing that song. They see the months and, the demos and all that. Yet somehow, you know, it's there when we hear it, like actual magic.
Yes.
Can't
Or
be.
it's not. You
Sure.
know, those exact writers can write the very next day, nothing.
Mhm.
Like, what happened?
Where did it go?
Where'd it go?
I can't compliment you enough on this record right here with Hyde. This is such a fun record. There are so many iconic moments, which again, this far into it, that ain't nothing right there. So, dude, congratulations on this. Seriously.
Oh,
And thank
thank
you
you,
so much
Kyle.
for taking the time to talk about it.
My pleasure. I was really looking forward to this. So
Right
thank
on.
you.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.